I'm Rick Leonardi. I've worked on all kinds of stuff for Marvel and DC, Spider-Man 2099, Cloak and Dagger, Nightwing for DC, Star Wars, you name it, I've been there. And you're on Splash Pages.
Sword of Omens, come to my hand. I, Lion-O, command it. Thundercats, ho! And you're watching The Dorkening.
Hey everybody, I'm here at Terrificon. I'm Drew at Splash Pages, and we have a returning guest, Mr. Rick Leonardi. Sir, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Everyone keeps asking me, and you know what? I'm fine. So thank you for asking.
So the answer's the same.
And it's still the same. So the last time we saw you was at Rhode Island Comic Con. You gave us some insider details about Beyond Spider-Verse. Now I've seen it.
Yeah, we've seen it.
I literally think it's better than the original, and
It's
you.
more complicated than the original. Holy smokes, the twists, the turns.
And then I have Miguel is kind of the movie's antagonist, primarily voiced by Oscar Isaac. How did you feel that they did with your boy?
Well, it's interesting. Antagonist is the right word. I see some people referring to him as the bad guy. I don't think he's the bad guy. He's definitely got a mission in mind that runs counter to the interests of Miles and the rest of the crew. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how they resolve that in the third movie. Who is right about these so-called canon points?
Right.
If Miguel's wrong and Miles is right, then there's a whole lot of dead George Stacy's that didn't have to die, right?
Right. So another thing is, in doing research, I found that you and Peter David, when you were creating 2099, you had to kind of work with Marvel on a kind of reluctance to tell stories that happen in the future, because then they have to make sure that present events at that time are tying in. So how did you guys kind of overcome that, and did it influence the world you and Peter basically started?
Yeah, the firewall that Marvel wound up erecting there was making it extremely clear across all four books and all subsequent books that the present day, our present day, to the people of 2099 is all myth and legend. Nobody really remembers what it was like in 2023.
Right.
Which is a stretch, I admit, but that's how they kind of finesse that question.
Okay. So, but this isn't also the only time you've seen, like Miguel's the only time you've seen a character that you worked on the big screen. You worked on Cloak and Dagger with Bill Mantlo, and then you got to see both Tyrone and Tandy on the big screen. They had 2 seasons. They tied into Runaways. So how did you feel Olivia Holt and Audrey Joseph did with portraying those characters and overall?
I was really very hopeful for I think it was on Hulu.
Something like that.
Yeah, the Hulu series. I thought that had a lot of potential, a lot of interesting prospects. And I actually was in correspondence with the showrunner, and he told me that they had, pictures from the first limited series blown up and hung around their green room for inspiration, which is kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. I think people's overall disappointment with it was it took them so long to get into costume. Right. Like, oh my God, the exposition part was a little bit protracted, and I think that may have done them in the end.
Right. So
overall, good.
So another thing, just kind of wrapping up, is
don't forget Vision, Scarlett Witch.
Oh yeah, no, didn't forget those.
That also got a screen treatment. So there you go. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what did you think about, especially that, because you had Vision playing such a big part in Endgame, and then you had Vision and the WandaVision. So you had that. So, you've played it in there and you've seen them. And how do you think Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen did as Vision and Wanda?
I think the reaction to that is overall highly positive. I think they did a great job, and it's a wonderful series. What's interesting to me though is that an idea from 45 years ago or something like that, Vision, Scarlet Witch in leafy suburban bliss.
Yeah.
Who at the time it was sort of a stretch, and people were reacting with cocked eyebrows and stuff. And now, 40 years later, there it is, kind of the underpinnings for a series on TV. So, in this business, you just never know what's going to hit.
Right. I mean, and another thing is, I would say that besides 2099, one of my other favorites that you did was you did a one-shot with Brian Augustin and Jimmy Palmiotti for Hellboy and Painkiller Jane, where the hero and I guess kind of the other hero, anti-hero, defeat an evil spirit using a Chumbawamba song. And I'm still laughing at that. So
Yeah.
I can only imagine how you felt reading it. It's like, I've got to, what? Like, what?
Well, and the nice thing is that here we are, got to be what, 20 years later, 15 years later, we still know who Chumbawamba is. So,
Yeah.
it's a thing. Yeah, I regret that Brian's not around because it was a good story, and I just was reminiscing with Jimmy here at the show about doing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my one contact with the Hellboy universe,
Yeah.
to my eternal regret.
So just briefly, last question is, since I saw you, I've read at least 120 issues of Nightwing. Loved the series. That's the Chuck Dixon, Scott Daniels started. And you also did, I think, issues 71, 74 to 82? Something like that, yeah. So you worked on it for a nice amount of time. You did a lot of stuff with Dick Grayson. He traveled the world a little bit. You had introduced his battle with Tarantula coming in,
Right.
her brother, all that. So playing in Bloodhaven, how was that?
Well, anybody who asks me, I freely tell them, I freely say that the Nightwing is the DCU's richest character with the most possibility and the greatest breadth. So, to the extent that now he's getting his due, he got
Right.
Eisner nom and all that kind of stuff, and to the extent that I was able to do 6 or 7 pages in Nightwing 100 as a kind of returning alumnus,
Yep.
I think it's high time, way overdue.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, so Rick Leonardi, I mean, he's still got, I mean, look at this. He's still got it. Oh, no. Stop you. This guy.
Hey,